Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite, Written Ralph, talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take a bite out of the apple and share it with you.
That was
Today
awesome.
we're hanging
I
out
loved your
with
intro.
Paul, Joshua, Tony. You were saying, Joshua?
I loved your intro. So much energy. That was great. That was great graphics.
Dude, we gotta like have fun and share the apple because that's exactly how all this sin happens.
So the name Apple Bitten, where does it come from? It's about
Well, we started off and we were running around New York, the apple.
Big
So
Apple.
we were taking a bite out of the apple
Yeah.
and sharing it with you.
Great. As you just said, I should have been listening.
No, it's a good question because the idea is, okay, so where did it come from? But you have to know that we're from New York in order for you to know that where the bitten apple idea come from.
Absolutely.
Because if you're from somewhere else, you're gonna be like, why an apple?
Right, exactly.
Because not everybody knows that we are the Big Apple.
So I was born in New York, spent a lot of my years living in New York, always felt very, very connected to that city. It's been, I think, I was born in New York, moved away when I was 2 and grew up in the Midwest, but my dad kind of always built this kind of mythology of New York as kind of the center of the world, the place where everything happens, the omphalos, right? The belly button, to use the Greek term, omphalos of the world. It is the core of the world's mythology, is all connected to New York City. So I've always believed that. And, I had this crazy experience after being away for many, many years, living in, the Midwest and then LA. My parents were very nomadic. Coming back to New York, I was like, I want to find a place to live. Where would I like to be? And I went exploring and I wandered into the West Village and I found kind of this one corner that was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. I could live here. And I found an apartment building. I was like, I like this one. And I told my parents like where I had looked at an apartment, and they were like, that's the corner you were born on.
Wow.
And I realized, yeah, I mean, this was like at the age of 25, like I'd been away for so many years. I mean, 25 years. I left when I was 2 months old, or 2 years old. I kind of realized, like, I think we do all have this kind of, spiritual, terrestrial connection to the place we come into the world.
Yeah.
Are you part salmon, Joshua?
Part shaman? Is that what you said?
No, salmon.
Salmon, like a fish spawning.
You go back to where you spawned from. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like right before the show, we were just talking about like how like me and Ruff, like our parents were friends and all that, and like we just like separated and all these things came together, and now like we're on a show. It's strange how life works out, like yeah.
Well, that's really incredible.
Everything happens for a reason. It really does.
Right, yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm a big believer in things like kismet and, and karma, and things, kind of, paying attention to where life brings you and what's in front of you, and happenstance, circumstance, coincidence. Like it never, like coincidence, I'm sure is probably just coincidence, but I try to read it as literary devices. I try to read it as the author, kind of designing the universe to happen in a certain way. And you as the character, the protagonist of your story, should pay attention to what the author has laid out for you.
If coincidence is a funny thing because, we're talking about coincidence. Something that probably shouldn't have happened, but did happen.
Yeah.
So, you sit there and you go, how can this not mean something?
Yeah.
How can it just be coincidence?
Yeah.
If this has led to that,
yeah.
A plus B equals C. It's simple. That's why it's in the equation.
Yeah.
Because it leads to each thing.
Which is
when people are like, I was looking for a sign, Ralph. I'm like, yeah, you saw this, and this.
Yeah.
That was just stuff that happened.
Well, I mean, but isn't that a great segue into how we met?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it when you were talking. I was like, oh, that was so funny how everything came to be, because you were over there talking to our pals, and you happened to be there signing, and then that just led me to going back to you to do the whole interview.
Well, also the fact that it was Newton, right?
Newton.
Yeah, and we had just we had found each other online and had just finally connected, And he had given me a copy of his comic, and I wanted to give him a copy of mine. I was like, oh shit, I'm out. Let me run all the way back to the 6th floor of the other building. And I had to go all the way over and up the elevator and back down again. And then I came back, handed it to him. And then, like, you know, I was pitching it to him, like what it was about. And you were standing right there.
Yep.
If I hadn't gone away and come back again, if I hadn't run out and just given one to someone else, right, we would never have met. So the fact that it was total kismet that you were staying there and you heard the pitch and you were like, ooh, damn, that's good.
That sounds good. Let's do an interview. Oh, yeah. We gotta go to the other building, Ralph.
And we went all the way back and up to the 6th floor of the other building.
I always, like, personally, I always try to live my life by, like, try to listen to, like, what life tells you what to do. Sometimes listen to what your dreams tell you sometimes, you know. Just try to listen. It's like, you know, there's always signs. It's like that old joke where, like, someone is saying, oh, God, you know, oh, please give me a sign, give me some kind of sign. And then the shooting star goes by and they'll be like, please give me a sign.
But I will tell you,
you gotta be aware of these things.
Okay, so this morning I was in the shower and I left, you know, like YouTube on my phone, which was sitting out on the bathroom counter, and an ad comes on, one of those ads that won't stop, and it's some Christian preacher talking about, you know, like, you know, I can help you with your porn addiction. And he's like saying over and over, you know, the fact that this ad came on for you to listen to it at this moment means that God wants you to hear this ad and cure your addiction to porn. And I was like, I was in the shower. I couldn't turn it off, and going. And I was like, I really don't think God wanted me to hear your ad.
It's possible, but there's also a thing called an algorithm. So
I was gonna say the YouTube algorithm if I heard one before.
I was just about to say the same thing as Tony said. You know, in this medium here, maybe sometimes it is some kind of coincidence, but because the algorithm exists, you sit there going,
Well, I mean,
it's like when you're texting your friend about Raisin Bread, and next thing you know, you get an ad about Raisin Bread. Oh, what a coincidence! You know,
the creepiest is when you're talking to a friend about something, and then you get an ad for it. You're like, they've got to be listening. You know, it's crazy. It's so
there is no privacy anymore.
No,
they're real.
Which would be
this thing is constantly listening.
It would be so much worse if the ads didn't know me so well. I'd be like, well, actually, I do want that. That actually, you know me. Yes, thank you.
I think that's what makes it worse, though, is that you're like, that I really want this.
I freaking stopped on one video for, you know, bad umpires, and now I'm getting like baseball videos every day.
I know that's the worst when you have to like consciously like retrain your algorithm. You know, that thing I push the button of once, you know.
Exactly. Oh, I hate that thing, you know, and it bugs me out because, like, okay, if you're paying attention to me, if this algorithm is paying attention to me, why is that one thing that I stopped for 1 second on all of a sudden takes over my whole feed?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Come on, dude. I want some more of the cartoons and other stuff. Yeah. And I was looking at
more Star Trek. That's all. I gotta really focus on Shatner and Picard and everyone. So
the worry always is that my kids, you know, are gonna like click on something, you know, on YouTube and then just get, you know, the algorithms.
Oh, completely, yeah.
Rabbit hole.
It's actually a great way to spy on kids, right? See what they're watching.
It is. They come by, do their thing.
Scary.
It's like, why am I getting? Oh,
wow.
Oh man. So Joshua, what do you give the people the spiel? This way they know what we're talking about with the Kismet.
Well, I should give the pitch that you heard that I was given.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hi guys. I'm a comic book writer. I'm a longtime video game writer. I've been writing video games for like 20 years, since like Assassin's Creed 2 was my very lucky, you know, big break into the industry. And then I've gone on and it was very lucky. And I've gone on and I've done games like Destiny, and I worked at Telltale on Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, and many years writing video games. But my real love has always been comic books. And I finally, you know, got to the point where I was like, I need to stop sitting on my ass about this. Like, don't want to wait for any more of the kind of projects where I have to ask for permission, where I have to ask for $1 million to make something. You know, life is too short for anything but fuck yes projects. Oh, I already broke your rule about swearing. Forgive me.
I already cursed a while ago.
And this is a project that I've been, working on for like 15 years. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to make this happen now. This comic book is called Time Sensitive. It's about a guy, an LAPD detective whose wife disappears at a gas station. And when he starts looking for her, everyone tells him he was never married, that the woman he remembers waking up with that morning has been dead for 5 years.
Wow.
And he thinks he's going insane, that he's hallucinated the last 5 years of his life, until this mysterious teenage girl shows up and says, I know why your wife was deleted. And it leads him into a whole hidden world that I'm not going to spoil too much, but you can probably guess from the title what direction the sci-fi is going in.
Very cool. I like
Sounds
it.
good.
Great line. Talk about getting you into. I know why your wife was deleted. Oh, okay, I'm in. Come on, let's go.
I've always loved mystery hooks.
Mhm.
I've always started with mystery hooks when I write, like the what ifs, right? And when I hear, stories pitched, when I hear a good show, if it immediately makes me want to know what happened next before I've even seen the first scene, I'm in. And so that's always what I try to do. And you've got the cover up there on screen. You can see this amazing artist that I connected with. His name is Jorge Quill. He is a Portuguese artist who is a veteran, Marvel, DC, Image. He's been doing this for 25 years. He actually just won the Amoro Award for Best European Artist for a adaptation of The Great Gatsby that was released last year by Clover Press, which is a beautiful book. And yeah, look at this crazy quote that I got from Forbes magazine. That kind of blew my mind. Oh, can I break some news for you guys here? Speaking of,
dude, we want you to break news.
All right. This is kind of blow my mind moment. All right, here it is. All right, so I'll start by saying, the way I got to George was by kind of, fighting way above my class. I was reaching out to like just great artists, who I could probably never get, but I just kept very patiently sending out emails to these great artists I respected, asking, would they write do a book with me? And one of them was the Portuguese artist Felipe Andrade, who I love. And he actually was nice enough to write back. And he said, hey, I dig your book, but I'm busy for the next 5 years. Whoa. But I know a guy who, I came up with, and he's just getting off a book right now and looking for his next one. And so I got connected to George that way. And he was like, hey, I'm busy for the next 3 months, but if you can wait, I would love to do it. And so I was like, I'm in no rush. It's my first book. I'm on no schedule. So I lucked out like crazy getting somebody that good. But it really taught me, like, punching above your class, your weight. Is that how you say it? Boxing reference, isn't it? Punching above your weight or your class?
I think so.
Like that?
I don't watch sports, but it sounds good.
It sounds right, yeah.
So
punching above your weight class, I think.
Yeah, punching above your weight class. Yeah.
Okay, so I started doing the same thing for blurbs this past week. Started reaching out to like the guys who I really respect, who are like way out there, and who I knew someone who I could get an email. One of the guys I reached out to is Dave Goyer. You know who he is?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He wrote, Dark Knight, first Batman, wrote Blade, going all the way to Blade. He just did the Foundation TV show on HBO. Like, he's like one of the great sci-fi writers.
Yes.
Superman, the first Superman, the Zack Snyder Superman. Like, he's been kind of one of the top superhero movie writers for decades, and someone that I've respected like crazy. Like, I've always kind of like, I was trying to create a list of like, who are the people that if I saw their name on a book, it would make me buy it. If I saw their blurb on a book. The dude said, yeah, he wrote back. He said, send me your book. If I cotton to it, I'll write you a blurb. Well, he just sent me the blurb about an hour ago.
Wow.
Awesome.
I'm like pissing myself.
I was wondering, because you seemed a little more excited than usual.
Yeah. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
I'll even give you the full screen here. Go for it.
David S. Goyer says, Joshua Rubin's Time Sensitive is a glorious and lovingly rendered mashup of all things Matrix, Looper, dark, and more. Funny, moving, and freaky in all the right ways. The art by Georges Qualo is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Highly recommended.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's a
Crazy,
blur.
right?
That is a blur.
That's a blur.
I was thinking that you sent him the script, or you sent him the whole comic.
I sent him the comic, yeah, a PDF
Cool.
of it.
Cool.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So now, like Forbes, I felt like I'd arrived. Now I feel like I'm on top of the world. Like I feel like actually this comic might be kind of good.
I thought so as soon as I heard your pitch, and and I still think so with that one line going, I know why your wife got the lead.
It's got a hook. Got a hook. Yeah.
And I'm a big noir detective type of person, so this feels like right down that alley. Even though it doesn't seem like you have a detective character, but it's a noir mystery. It's all there.
Yeah. It's totally noir soaked. I mean, it's not, like it's that classic kind of LA noir.
Yeah.
It's very much LA is very much a character. Very much kind of that feel of like, drenched in sunlight. And, but kind of like, it goes from that kind of, glaring over bright, you can barely see sunlight of Los Angeles to like that misty, gray, orange light where like, the sun is kind of pushing through and kind of turning everything orange in the fog.
Yeah.
It kind of hits like all of these LA moments that kind of, the light is so specific to the city and so specific to those kind of noir films like Heat and Body Heat.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's really Heat and Body Heat. Very different LA noir films. But it's what else you want to talk about?
Dude, I'm going down the thing here because this is your pre-page for your Kickstarter.
Exactly.
All right, and I put it into the comment section so people can go check it out right now. And it's always important to sign up to get notified, folks. So and it's free to do, and it helps out the project. But look at this thing here, man.
No,
why won't you go over there and sign up to get notified?
Oh man. So we're launching in a couple months, but we're collecting emails and reservations now because it really helps us launch on day one. And the amazing thing about Kickstarter is if you get that backing, if people kind of all come in on day one, then Kickstarter's algorithm kind of kicks into high gear. Yeah, that's me. What am I doing there? It kicks into high gear and it will then bring a whole bunch of their own audience, which is really like why you go to Kickstarter. So any of that like initial help is really incredible. So there's also a thing, actually, if you scroll down a bit further, there's a $1 reservation that you can make. Oh, you know what? I take it back. It's not on this page, so you can't see it.
Okay. I've seen that before. We've had a couple of guys come on where they do that, where they do the $1 reservation.
It's when you get to the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, exactly. It's once you drop in your email that it'll say, "Hey, how would you like to put down a $1 reservation?" But
see, Paul knows that because he went into the page.
Thank you. But the reason to do it is because we have this amazing piece of art from Jorge Quill, which is the Portuguese way to say it, Jorge Quill, not Jorge Qualo, which is what we want to say. But this amazing piece of art from Jorge that is just totally beautiful, that we are giving away for free to people who give down that $1 when they come back to buy the book. So these are some of our variant covers, 3 incredible variant covers. The one on the left is by Jonathan Mark Sparavecchia, who was at Bix with us. He's a New York artist who does everything.
I really like it. That this completely feels noir.
Yeah.
That left piece, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Totally. And it's hand painted, the painting and the ink and this feeling of Caleb, the detective Caleb Stone kind of being torn between 2 different time periods. He's kind of being ripped through dimensions like that.
Right.
I love. And it's such a, what was really important to me in the kind of artists I wanted to bring on were artists where you really felt the hand of the artist in the work. I've never loved kind of, let's say I have loved, but I've gotten tired of the Marvel DC aesthetic.
Yeah.
Kind of the classic. I want to see an artist's work come through. Georges definitely has a very unique take. Beravecchia definitely does. The guys in the middle, they're from Ecuador. They're a group, a pair of guys who go by the name of Lustrabox. And they have this incredible cinematic sense that's so unique. I don't know.
It looks like a movie poster.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially the middle one.
Yeah. The middle one's the one I'm talking about. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see it, but like at the very bottom of that triangle there is a body kind of falling into the water.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you just feel this sense of like, you know, this character falling through his memories, and it's very existential. And then the one on the right is by Sidney Davidson, who's this incredible guy who has this amazing cartoonist feel to the work he does. And I just, you know, I wanted that, you know, classic retro Back to the Future reference.
Yeah. I was gonna say that was like an 80s movie. Yeah, well, yeah, Back to the Future. Right.
Totally. Yeah, and he knocked it out of the park.
I gotta say, when you sent me the covers, and I was looking through them, that one stood out completely, which is why I put it into the promo. And I was like, oh, this is great. I love the Back to the Future type of homages, you know, and because it kind of says something without you having to say something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he did a title for me too, so it's time sensitive into the Back to the Future font. So
oh yeah, I saw.
Perfect. Yeah. What else you got on there?
Let's see, what else do we got on here? Here's your logo. I gotta say, your logo is fantastic here. With to me, it feels like Cthulhu's coming out of the ocean.
Totally, it's like Cthulhu coming out of the book with the rocket going overhead.
Exactly.
So it's got a little you know, epic cosmic horror, a little sci-fi. It feels kind of like a wood print, you know, at the same time. So it's like dated and like futuristic at the same time, sci-fi and fantasy.
It's funny because it's also dated futuristic, which is that 50s futuristic, you know, where it has a feel of the past, but at the same time, it's the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is another amazing. Exactly. I'll just give a plug too for another amazing artist I found. This is a young Italian guy named Leonardo Romanelli, who amazingly works entirely in ink. He, as far as I know, he never sketches in pencil. He goes right to ink, and there's just like this boldness to every stroke that he does in his work. He did my my big website piece. If you want to pull my Strangeland website up, there's an amazing piece of art that he did there as well.
All right, hold on.
Here's Tallulah, the mysterious teenage girl, offering her hand to say, "Come with me."
Do me a favor, put it into the link, put it into the private chat, and I'll put it right up.
I'll put it in the public chat.
Well, no, I can't take it from the public private, but if you put it into the private chat, I can take it.
Got it. I got it. It's pretty easy. It's strangelandcomics.com.
I figured.
There you go.
Sometimes when I put things into the computer, it gives me other things, which is bad, really bad.
Oh no, I lied. I took it down. Never mind. I cannot show it off to you. What a shame.
So this is for the Strangeland, and you made something completely for the other one. I like when people do that because it kind of keeps the project separate.
How do you mean?
Well, you know, this is your site for over here, right? For
yeah.
Strangeland Comics, and then the other site. Well, I guess this one makes sense because this is specifically for the pre-Kickstarter stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I like that separation because sometimes, you know, people just want to go check one thing out instead of going, let's check out their whole site.
Can I? Oh, I can share as well, so I could bring it up and show you.
Definitely.
All right, let me
share away, brother. Share away.
All right, here we go. Present. Share screen.
It gets a little complicated in the beginning, but after you figure it out, there you go.
All right.
So get rid of this one, add this one, boom.
So you got a big ad on there as well. But so this is the Forbes article that came out last week, and so he's got what was my cover for my website until I had Time Sensitive take it over. But this more work by this guy, Leonardo Romanelli. And this is, talk about Cthulhu, like the tentacles coming out of the book,
Yeah.
the dragon in the background, the big time travel machine, the fairy. Like, this was all about, like, all of the genres kind of, bursting through the pages of a comic book, coming to life, filling your imagination taking to the streets.
Oh, you can feel it. Yeah. I gotta say, have you found it different? Because you've been working video games, right? You found it different, or does it seem to gel with each other or into each other?
Video games and comic book writing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, very, very different, art forms. And, I've always been fascinated by kind of the differences in the different mediums as I've learned to write for each medium. I started as a novelist, and then I was a hip hop journalist in New York, and then I was a screenwriter, and then I went into video games, and then I've been doing VR and XR, AR, all of this kind of immersive reality stuff, and then into comic books. And every single time I've jumped mediums, it's been an entirely new education in kinds of writing. But there's always been kind of pieces that have, traveled from one to the other. But like, I've been trying to think about, like, what have I really taken from video game writing that's gone into comic book writing? Well, I think, like, video game writing, like, really teaches you to think about, like, pacing and player engagement, right? Because in games, you're always balancing action with story beats in order to keep players hooked. You want to get them into the action, you want to get them, engaged but you want to get them to care. Why are they doing what they're doing? And your few moments of story are the moments that you give the player the why. It's the, because, like, gameplay is what we do, but story is why we do it. And if we're not engaged and wanting to, do what the character that we're playing is doing, then it's just, shooting a gun, right? But if that was interesting. Did you hear that, or just me?
Oh yeah. It was like somebody took a DJ to the record.
I know. Shoot it. Interesting choice too. So yeah, so
like you were being emphasized.
that was a time blurb, man. It just kind of was spinning around.
It all happens together, brothers. It all happens together. So let me ask you this.
More Kismet and Fade and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, so, but that, I mean, before you go with your question, I just want to finish the thought, like, just that, so in games, right, you're balancing action with story beats, and, you're kind of, you're engaging players with a reason to play, and then giving them that mystery, hopefully after every action beat, you give them, reason to wonder, well, what the hell's going to happen next? Like, you want to know what happens next. And that's why you keep playing. Otherwise, it's just, mastering your way up. But if you care, it's a totally different experience. So translating that into comics is really about, like, okay, making sure each issue, each page turn, each, panel is delivering, like, a compelling moment that is going to keep you invested, to want to see what happens next. I'm all about the page turn. I'm all about, like, the mystery of what's going to happen on that next page. Why is this happening? And then giving you that connection with the character that's going to make you want to care. That's going to make you care about them, what the hell happens to them. Yeah.
So that totally resonates with me, Joshua, because that's one of the premises that I have for developing the game that I'm doing. It's just basing on episodes from, like, the 1960s Batman series. It's like one episode after the other, it's like, what's going to happen next type thing, and hopefully keep people engaged that way and wanting to, anxiously wait for the next one to come about. That's what's really cool about it. So
absolutely.
Same bat time, same bat time.
Exactly.
That Batman show is such comfort food for me as a kid. I loved watching that in the afternoon. Yeah. Coming home, bang, kapow. Holy.
Well, I grew up in Massachusetts, and we didn't have it. So when we went to vacation in Wildwood, I get Channel 11. It was great. I was like, no, I don't want to go to the pool. I'm watching Batman. This is great.
So Batman was sort of like this, like, forbidden treat that you couldn't have. You had to, like, leave home to get it. And, like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think even watching now, it still holds up. Just the fact it's entertaining, man. It's very entertaining still. You know, I think it still holds up.
That's why I hate when people like look at it and try to knock it down because it was entertaining. It was well done. It was well written. And a lot of people try to take a lot of take away from it, you know, because they don't like the style they did it in, you know, and especially these new darker hero lovers, you know, they kind of like don't like the campiness. They don't like but you know, I feel like a lot of people forget that that's what comic books were for a while.
I forget that, especially with
Batman is a direct translation of those books.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, they were very similar to the comics that were out at the time.
Exactly.
Very similar.
It was Watchmen, right, that really changed the scene. Watchmen that really was the first to be like,
right, yeah. And they came out at the same time as like Dark Knight.
Frank Miller around the same time or before that.
Because Batman
he was making fun of all of that. He in his mind he was making fun of everything, and all of a sudden he became the book that you have to copy.
Frank Miller was making fun, or Alan Moore?
Alan Moore.
Yeah.
When he makes Watchmen, he's making fun of that type of thing.
Absolutely, exactly.
Right. And so he gets upset because they took it and they all of a sudden made this the basis for how heroes are supposed to be done. He goes, I was making fun of it.
He really saw it as a joke. He said that he really saw this as like a dark, cynical. I think I don't entirely believe that. I think there's probably some truth to that, but I can't imagine he's entirely like, oh, this was just a throwaway joke. It's too deep.
It is Alan Moore. He'll say one thing today and then something else tomorrow. So
right. Yeah, but who came first? Was it Frank Miller or was it Alan Moore with Watchmen?
I'm not sure. I think Dark Knight Returns was first.
Yeah, Dark Knight was first. Yeah. I got Dark Knight at St. Mark's Comics when it first came out.
Really?
I'm really dating myself now.
Right there with you. I remember I was reading Watchmen in floppies. Yeah. Every month, kind of, what the hell is this? And you know, in those covers, you know, and realizing that the whole thing was like a what do you call it? Like that you could read the book forward and backward, and that like all of the panels like matched each other like a mirror, and that there was all of this like secret messaging in it, and then like reading the pirate stories in the back of each book.
Because everything interconnected.
Yeah.
See, but that's the whole thing. The whole industry was going into that dark area.
Yeah.
And so when Watchmen came out, it was his going, okay, this is not the direction we need to go. It may not have been the whole reason for why he did what he did, but it was that kind of spoofing of everything.
Specifically for Batman. I mean, Batman like always appealed to kids, and when that happened, there's a dark version, and now there's a split. Batman doesn't always appeal to kids. No. So the other people always ask like, who's the bigger superhero, Spider-Man or Batman? The thing is that Spider-Man merchandise-wise makes more money because Spider-Man always appeals to kids. Like Batman always, it's kind of a split. Like, you can't take I wouldn't take a 12-year-old to watch that Heath Ledger movie, you know, or a kid. I mean, like, no.
No, I mean, that's it. I mean, I think, you know, in terms of the way, you know, the 60s Batman appealed to us as kids, right? It was definitely more age appropriate. But to show someone like a Heath Ledger Joker to my 7-year-old, I'd have a big problem with that. I mean, it's just too scary. You know, it's just too scary. So,
I remember when they first announced that Tim Burton was doing the Batman movie. They were like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna do this ridiculous '60s thing. Who wants to see this?" And then when it came out, it was not that. It was like, "Whoa, what is this?"
It was totally dark.
Yeah, but it was campy dark. It was campy dark, right? Yeah. It wasn't until Nolan and Goyer, right, came out with the first Batman Begins, right, that they kind of took the dark Batman of kind of the Frank Miller era. Not exactly that story, but kind of that kind of grounded, dark, what would happen if this was a character in the real world feeling, right? Which was so past the, you know, I think Burton was much more connected to the campy Batman of our youth.
But I
hate that Batman of, you know, Nolan, right, is more age appropriate for us having grown up with the Batman and seeing him evolve over time. You know, so it's like, it's a big difference in a way.
But I hate that because I feel like it takes away from the characters. Because now, as soon as you do something fun in one of these movies, you know, or you get that backlash from the audience going, "Well, what's going on? This is true. This is unrealistic." And I'm like, it's a comic book movie.
I only have issues when they limit themselves, because I remember when they were doing the Christopher Nolan shows is like we can't introduce Penguin, like that will never fit in this world. And I mean, I think right now they just did Penguin great. They just in the new show they did a realistic version of Penguin. So I think it's a mistake to like limit. So like I don't like it when they limit themselves like right out of the gate. Like there's no way that this Batman could meet Superman. I know there's a way. I think there's a creative way to do it. That aspect I don't like so much.
All right, I have a fantasy that one day we'll get like a Super Friends, but it'll be like it'll be like the camp Super Friends, but like live action, and then like halfway through it'll turn really dark, and it'll like Nolan in the middle, like will suddenly like completely switch genre.
As long as they do
I can't imagine that Crypto's gonna be like this Doberman pincher to like rip someone's head off, so
right. The dark Nolan, version of Gleek the Blue Monkey, and the one
people loved the trailer for Superman so much was because they went with this nice, adorable dog.
Yeah.
Instead of I am Super Dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, do you think it looks good?
Yeah, it looks good so far. I'm hoping that the gun does the job. I like myself a more hopeful Superman. And that's what this feels like.
I mean, I have to say I'm a huge James Gunn fan. I have loved his work again and again and again. Going all the way back to the specials and Slither and and then when Guardians came out, I think 1 and 3 especially are just such beautiful, humanistic, incredibly well-crafted pieces of adventure writing with all of kind of the humor that he's great at. But the new Superman feels worrisome. Like to me, like I feel like it was rushed. Like he was handed this huge, incredible new job and told, okay, but you got to have Superman out in a year. And he was like, all right, let's go. I have an idea. We'll do it. But, great work takes time. Great work doesn't get rushed. The best work.
I don't think like there's James Gunn movies that are like more than others. I don't think he's associated. I don't associate him with any bad movie, So I think it'll be a good movie. It seems more like a Justice League movie than a Superman movie, but that's okay, So we'll see. I like that Clark Kent and Superman. They look really different. I don't know how the actor's gonna pull it off. Hope he pulls it off, but they look like two different people. So we'll see if he pulls it off. Yeah, this guy got like really messed up, like wavy hair. So we'll see.
Well, fingers crossed. I want it to be good. Did you staying on topic? Did you guys see Thunderbolts?
I haven't seen it yet, but I've gotten a lot of good reviews on it, which is an interesting thing because usually by now, my friends are trying to destroy it.
I have not seen it, but it was like I have a friend that he's the type that like I don't want to spoil it, but and he spoils it anyway. What he told me I didn't like, so at this point I'm like, well, I don't know. Some people like it, so I might see it or I might wait for Disney Plus. I'm not sure, but what he told me I did not like. So, but no.
So I took my kids this weekend. They loved it. Of course, they loved everything Marvel. They're not very discerning. I think I'm done with Marvel.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean,
so is that your review of the movie by saying that you're done with Marvel?
I mean, because I'll put it this way. It was very good for what it was doing. There were moments where I laughed out loud for, many, many minutes at a time. They had me rolling. There were moments where I was really touched. There were moments where I cared about the characters and moments where, I really dug what they did with the bad guy. And yet at the end of it, I was like, that was no different than any Marvel I've seen before. It was just another one.
Yeah, they're just using the same storyline over and over again, which...
At least you had some emotion, because when I saw Captain America: Brave New World, I felt nothing. I felt like I felt like people were just playing continuity cop. It was like, okay, we're gonna fix all the we're gonna wrap up all the Hulk stuff in this movie. Then we're gonna wrap up all the Eternal stuff in this movie. Check. We're gonna introduce Adamantium. Check. And that's what I felt like. I felt nothing in that movie. So and nothing against the actors. I think all the actors are great. And nothing. I think Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford. I think they're all great. Nothing against them, but I just felt like I felt nothing. Like I felt more watching the show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was more connected to that. This movie, I just like, you know, sitting there like, oh, okay, this happened. Okay, good to know. Like, you know, but
it's hard. I mean, it feels like, you know, they are victims of their own success. And, you know, a lot of it came from, you know, rushing a lot of things into production, trying to do too much. I think art takes time. Great art takes time. You know,
it just feels like, you know, there's a need to put to push another product on there, to give us another movie, to give us, you know, but not ensure that it's something like, you know, really worth going to see, you know, like it's just such a rush to, like, you know, create product, you know. It's,
I mean, I will say,
pull back a little bit, you know.
So I've been working on this comic for 15 years. And, you know, there is like definitely moments where I'm like, you know, I have been, you know, beating my head against the wall on this one for way too long, you know, and then there are moments where I'm like, no, I think the marinating for 15 years is part of why it's getting the response it's getting. You know, I think, you know, it is always dangerous when you are successful and people are then like, you know, so now what are you going to do next? You know, I've got a window for you in 6 months, because everyone's got, you know, sequels are hard to do because you don't have the time. Second episodes, how often does our second episodes live up to pilots? I mean, you know, you spend so long creating your pilot in the pitching process, you know, refining it, pitching it to one studio after another, you know, constantly, you know, building it like that. And then they're like, okay, we bought it. Now write the second one, you know, through the 12th one in the next 6 weeks. You know, it's insane.
My favorite thing is when you get the second, third, fourth episode, and it's so much better than the pilot. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, exactly. How often
you watch the pilot and you go, how the hell did they get this show out of that pilot?
Yeah, it's true.
I remember I remember slightly later, I remember La Femme Nikita when like you know, the commentaries on the DVD, they were saying that they filmed the second episode before the pilot because they wanted to make sure the characters had chemistry, you know, and that they could work well together, and then they filmed the pilot. So I think
that's so interesting. I remember when I was working on Destiny. Destiny was like the first game where I was really like part of a huge community, a huge like company working on something together, and that I was really like learning. Like on Assassin's Creed, when I came into that one, it was a total fluke that I got that job, and it kind of changed my life. And you know, my first real big game after that was Destiny, and I was like such a newbie and into this whole new world and just like learning as I went. And one of the things that kind of blew me away was that we did not have a beginning for that game until like you know, like a year before ship, like 6 months before ship. There was still no beginning to the game. And I was like, how can I write what's happening in the game and where we're going to go if we don't know how it begins? And they were always like, you cannot, the whole philosophy of the studio was you cannot write the first issue of the game, blah, blah, blah. You cannot build the first level of the game until you know all of the mechanics that you're going to have to teach, because the first level is all about teaching new mechanics, and you need to have them refined and perfect. And the same thing with the world. Like you can't really introduce that world in the right way until you know all of like, what is that world going to be? So that was a huge lesson for me, and one I've taken on a lot. And that was actually one of the hard things with writing this comic, is that it was a first issue, you know, and so I had started writing this first issue many years ago, and there have been many variations on it, because I always thought, you know, the thing about comics is you kind of like, you write it live, right? You write it issue to issue. People are reading it. You take that responses. At a certain point, I was like, I need to take the lessons I've learned. And I ended up sketching out in detail the entire 6-issue series that this is going to be. And it wasn't until I had reached the end and it had really sketched out the whole series in detail that I was able to finally go back and write what the first issue became.
That makes total sense. Yeah, because I was a big, I have been a huge Destiny fan for a long time, but you know, that first storyline for Destiny was just amazing. It was so cool. And you know, subsequent storylines after that didn't seem to match it. It was just, I think the whole idea of what that game did for groundbreaking was just amazing. It was so cool to play that game. So,
Thank you.
And I wasn't much of a PV player. I really liked the storyline. I go for the cinematics, and that's what kind of drove me for creating Time Forces. I really make a story and not just a video game that people play. You know, it's really important that the story is behind it as well. So
Yeah.
that's what I loved about that game. It was so cool.
So Joshua, that brings me back to the question I've had for a bit now.
Oh, yeah.
You're writing video games, right? And why is it now that they seem to be going away from storytelling? They're more interested in what they can do and how they're gonna do it, and I know that Paul's going like this, but I find that the more they do this, the less people are buying games. So I'm sitting there going, why are you getting rid of the story if the story is what usually gets the people to play the game?
Exactly.
I mean, it goes in cycles, right? I mean, I remember, when I first started on Assassin's Creed, the buddy who brought me into that game, said to me, look, this isn't like TV. The writer is not important in a video game. He said the writer to a video game is like the announcer at a strip club. People are not there for you.
That's messed up. It's funny.
but the truth is, but it's changed, right? That was 2007.
Yeah.
The game came out in 2009, and it has changed. Like, there has then come, so much more respect for single player narrative games. I think Last of Us, from Neil Druckmann had a lot to do with that. That game really kind of showed what you can do with kind of deep story and character that is deeply intertwined with gameplay. Like, I remember I was very lucky. I got to sit and have lunch with him like early in the production of that game. And, and he kind of told me like, well, the secret is that the lead game designer and I are joined at the hip, like every day. We're not in different silos. Like, everything that happens in gameplay is because of story, and everything in the story is because of gameplay. That is so rare. That's so rare.
That is rare. Yeah.
And I think that's why part of why that game was so successful.
I agree.
Artistically as well. But but just, I mean, let me go a bit further just to answer your question more, because like, so now we're in this cycle where the free to play and the model has become really big, and the games of service model has become really big, where there is this kind of ongoing experience, and it's a world that expands, but it's not a story. It's not like a story with sequels. It really is focused entirely on gameplay. And so because of success, right? Success of the model has, made that where all the money was going. And then exhaustion with that model means the money has now gone elsewhere. And that whole video game industry is completely shrinking as a result.
It is.
But what's, of course, the benefit is single player narrative. And single player narrative is now, you see in the companies that are getting formed now. And, if you're on LinkedIn where everyone's announcing their new companies, it's all single player narrative, which, for me as a gameplay nerd of single player narrative, I am more excited, than ever for what's happening in the video game world as a result of the destruction of the video game industry.
It's so funny that you say that, because I play all these games, and especially the pay to play games. And you see it in the pay-to-play games because they don't care about the story. They say they care about the story, but they throw stuff at you. And I'm like, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Why do I care about this? You didn't give me a reason to care about this. Oh, it's a cool character. It's a nice thing that you're adding to the game for the PvP aspect of things. But you just threw this at me and said, fuck you. Because that's pretty much what it is. It's like you're gonna buy it anyway, so fuck you. I don't need to give you anything else.
The one who started with the rule no swearing.
That's what I told you. I broke it before, and I'm gonna continue.
I love it.
The whole thing started though because YouTube would mark us on certain things, and then they changed the rules, and then what you're supposed to do is not curse for the first 10 minutes.
Is that right? Is that where they stopped paying attention?
Oh, so
they changed it again.
Gotcha.
We made about 5 minutes before our curse.
They keep changing the rule, and so I kept the whole thing in the beginning, but I always tell the truth. I'm gonna say something somewhere down the line, and I'm gonna break that rule before anybody. Especially when I get passionate.
And it was those smartphone gotcha games that got him started.
Damn you, gotcha games.
My wife and I.
Don't look at you, man.
My wife
You
and
got
I
to
were
pay,
so bad in
you
the
have to
house.
pay money. Hey, pay money for the chance to get a character that you like. Oh, that's oh my gosh! What a what a great enterprise! Wow.
You were saying, Joshua?
I was still on swearing. I was saying
No,
my
you were
wife
saying your wife.
and I were so bad at
Oh,
at
that's swearing.
not swearing in front of our kids. Like, you know, like I think we tried, but like our kids had the dirtiest mouths. Like they swore like
Yeah.
we do at home. Like we were just, you know, not in no control out of what comes out of our mouths. And so we had to teach them, you know, like obviously we don't care about swearing, but at school in front of your teacher, like, you know, and they were like, but all of our friends swear. I'm like, okay, out in the schoolyard, you can swear, you know, but you can't swear in front of grandma and grandpa, but they swear. All right, you can swear in front of grandma and grandpa, you can swear with your friends, you cannot swear in front of your teacher, you know, or at Sunday school. Those are just you got to code switch somewhere.
Dude, I remember my friend's parents, because my parents they were Spanish, so I think their swearing was in Spanish, and it was just totally different. When I would go to their houses, and their parents would be like, bleep, 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 and I'm like, and then he would curse, right? And they would jump all over him, and I'm like, and then I saw the movie A Christmas Story, and it makes so much sense to me.
Why do you say fudge?
It makes so much sense to me because I had seen all that happen with my friends. And I'm like, you know,
over the years, I've become a connoisseur of soap. My mom had a certain piquant taste.
Oh no, really?
I love that movie. Love that movie.
Life Boy.
Oh my god. See, folks,
the worst is when
everywhere.
Like a kid learns the curse because then they'll keep saying it and then everybody laughs and they think it's a good thing and you get what was that? Meet the parents of the kid kept saying oh. So funny.
That's right. I remember that story now.
But your parents do that. They laugh at when the kid does something and that reinforces it, and then they get upset that the kid's doing it.
No, I did something good. Like, well,
dude, I get in trouble all the time because I'll write something and I'll write a dialogue in what I'm writing, and somebody will sit there, read it, and go, "People don't talk like that," and I'm like, "This is word for word a conversation that I heard." So you can't tell me that people don't talk like that.
Huh. Wow. Huh. Yeah, I've always been shocked, like whenever I've like, you know, like really paid attention to like the way people talk and like written it down, you know, when I'm studying dialogue, you know, like how weird people actually speak.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. That's why it bugs me out because, you know, you'll have somebody read your stuff and then they're like, I didn't like the dialogue because it wasn't realistic. And I'm like, what?
Realistic dialogue is very important to me. Like that's something like I really spent a lot of time crafting that dialogue, listening to it in my head, reading it out loud. Trying to get that kind of that naturalistic, humanistic sense. Like that's really important to me. Like you know, and especially in writing sci-fi. Like sci-fi, I want it grounded. I want to know like what happens. You know, I don't want campy characters. Forgive me for referencing our campy Batman, but that was never been what I've wanted to write. Like I've always wanted to write like okay, what happens when a human being is thrown into an intense genre situation? What would they really do? How would they really respond? You know, I think it comes from like, you know, like I grew up like with my dad, you know, who was a film curator for a time at the museum, and he would show you know, at the museum like these European art house movies, and then at home he would show us like, you know, James Bond and Bruce Lee and Doc Savage, and you know, and I totally grew up on like, you know, these like, you know, genre movies are as important as, you know, the European art house films. And, you know, and I loved them both, you know, and then Star Wars, you know, and all of the Spielberg era. So for me, like, I think everything I've written has always been about trying to connect those two worlds together. Like what happens when you get the sensibility and the humanism of European art house mixed with the thrill and the pacing and the mind blowing, mind expansion of a genre, and merge them together. So that's definitely always been my goal. And it's so much dialogue.
It's funny that you say that because like I said, I'm a big noir guy, and people are constantly telling me that nobody is sitting there narrating all this stuff, and I'm like, you don't do that. You're not constantly. There's no narrator in your head constantly saying things. And then he grabbed the cup, and then because that guy is always in my head, and he's always talking. He don't shut up.
It's really funny. Like so to this writer, Brian Michael Bendis, like there's one thing when he first came on the scene, his dialogue was like amazing, and people would make fun of it that it's just like talking heads, but he had these conversations. It was like, you did the thing. Yeah, I did the thing. That thing? Yeah, that thing. The thing? Yes, that thing. Oh, okay, you did the thing. But while you're reading that, my gosh, you get so absorbed in the story, you forget everything. You're the thing. Because that is how people like really talk, people have conversations like that where you say one thing and instead of saying, oh, you did this or that, and so it was. But then it got, but now it's like tired because now everybody, like, and now every Marvel movie has conversations like that. Now it's just annoying. At the time, it was amazing.
It was when I discovered Bendis the first time I read him, like it was like, oh, I have found my way back to comics. Like that was after I had like gone away, for like all of my, my 20s and my 30s. My 20s, mid 30s, I kind of came back, because I discovered Bendis and Brian K. Vaughan, in the local comic. Yeah. And, just what Bendis was doing with Avengers when he came on was like, it was exactly what I'm talking about. It's that kind of humanism, right? Yeah. It was talking the way that people actually talk.
Exactly.
Yeah. While there's explosions going off and supervillains coming in. And I love that. I love that mix so much. And Brian K. Vaughan too, like, when he started Saga, like 15 years ago now, 10, I mean, my God, and, started with, a woman yelling, am I shitting, as she's giving birth. And I'm like, wow, that is so human and relatable.
That's completely human. Yeah.
The dude has horns and you're like, where are we? Like, it's incredible. Incredible. Yeah.
So Joshua, one more time, tell the people where they can find you, all the good stuff, so that they can go looking for you and support this beautiful project.
Awesome. Thank you. The book is called Time Sensitive. Issue number 1 is coming to Kickstarter in the next couple months, but you can reserve it right now at timesensitive/strangelandcomics.com. It's in the chat right here. And I would love your support. I think you'll love the book. These guys dug it. Dave Goyer dug it and wrote me this incredible blurb I'm going to put out. So, yeah, this is incredible. Thank you guys for letting me chat about it.
Dude, when you do the Kickstarter video, you should be like, I'm going to quote you exactly what he said. I'm going to read it to you. Put it in the video.
Yeah. And then, like, just done. That's it.
Exactly.
What do I need? Yeah.
Anything else to support it, Joshua, you're good to go.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Joshua, we'll have you back on the show when you start off the Kickstarter. That way we can try to help you out with the whole thing. Just keep me posted on what's going on. And if you want to come back on any other time to geek out with the rest of us, because you geeked out good, you can come on.
Thank you, guys. This has been such a pleasure. I'm going to go put my son to bed. Have a great night. Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Joshua. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
That was Joshua. He is a great guy. Go support the project. I put that into the comment section there on the side, so you guys can go do that. So I don't hear the guy say, hey, Ralph, why didn't you put the link in the comment section?
Your friend is morphing into No, he sounds like more Larry from the Three Stooges now. He's morphing a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes I get tired of doing his voice. Paul, I'll remind all these beautiful people what it is you do and all the good stuff you have. I'll put it up on the screen as you talk.
Awesome. Thanks, Raphael. So Time Enforcers is an interactive digital comic video game that makes learning history fun. It came out of COVID. Through the learning experience I saw through my kids and how learning history is not fun. And so I really want to make an opportunity for kids to get involved and get inspired to start investigating history on their own. And really, that's the premise of what Time and Force is all about. Come in, play the game, and hopefully you can take off and start learning other facts that are outside of the game. And that's really the whole premise for what this game's about. And episode 1 has launched, and we are taking orders for downloads now. It's only a couple bucks off the App Store, so please download it. Let me know what you think. I'm looking for feedback because we're working on episode 2 now. Episode 1 is Time Out of Time in Feudal Japan. So you play as Samurai Warrior Kaizen to try and figure out what the disturbances are taking place at that time. And then episode 2 will be highlighting Amelia Earhart. And the title of the game is going to be called Flying into the Chronostorm. So we're looking to expand this universe out and introduce more characters from history as we go. And hopefully we can just make this, one episode after another. And it's really my dream to see come about for this game is make it where it's almost like a Batman series going on. And we can essentially have an anthology after 5 or 6 games are done. And you actually can have a really cool storyline going on and really get kids involved in learning about what's happening in history all around them. So
I like the fact that you're not taking it completely serious, meaning that, you're letting the kids enjoy it and have fun. And it's history. Come on, it's serious enough as it is.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of, making something boring? I mean, that's kind of the feedback I'm looking for, too, is how we can make this more entertaining. I've gotten some decent feedback in terms of making more puzzles associated with the game. So episode 2 is going to definitely have more puzzles associated with it as opposed to just answering questions. And it's really meant to be something that's going to be challenging, but also make it so that kids have fun doing it at the same time. So that's why we have a role-playing aspect associated with it, as well as a story aspect with an interactive comic book. We really wanted to make it approachable by readers of all levels, and that's why we have animated balloons and thought balloons going on when the characters are talking, so you don't have to necessarily read every screen. The game actually talks to you, so you can actually listen and read at the same time, which we hope will be engaging as well for the players. So
it's like I think we've had this conversation before. Like history and science are actually fascinating.
Yeah.
The way we learn it in schools is not.
Oh my God.
So.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Tony, because it's just not history. I mean, if you go back and learn about feudal Japan, you're not just learning about, dates when the samurai warriors were controlling feudal Japan at the time with shoguns and shogunates. You learn about the culture too. I mean, there's so many cultural things that are involved when you start talking about history. And I think, again, culture and science just interweaves itself into those stories. And that's what's really important. It's a multi-experiential experience where you're having just not learning about history, you're learning about the culture, you're learning about the science of the times. One of the biggest things that I saw in learning about history was the trebuchet, that was used during, whatever the feudal dark ages. And those devices were huge. They're throwing these huge boulders essentially on a big, slingshot. It's amazing to me, and think about how they designed those things at that time. It's incredible. So you learn about history, but you also learn about science at the same time. So it's really cool.
Yeah, because it's all interconnected. People act like everything's separated. Math is connected to history. History is connected to math. Science is connected to history. History is connected to science. Everybody starts to act like they're all different things. And I feel like that kind of messes it up for everybody.
I mean, I think with math, we kind of lose the point. The reason why we learn math is so we can think logically. It's supposed to teach you logically, but we get a little too caught up in you have to know how much x factor this and that, blah 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 blah. You have to know what this number means. We get caught up. It's not, to me, that's not the point. It's to get you to think a certain way. To get you to think that if you do this will happen. But we get a little too hung up on those numbers. No, it's not. I don't know. I think there's more fascinating ways to learn math too. Also, pretty much every subject.
Yeah, the characters in the games that we have going so far. I mean, C.T. Haugens, who I dress up as, in my cosplay, is actually based off of Christian Huygens, who was actually a physicist and a scientist from the 18th century, and he was a Dutch scientist at the time. He actually invented the pendulum. So it's like you think about all these characters from history and how they had such an impact on our lives. We just don't not aware of it. And that's what I think is really a big shortfall in just even learning through the typical history classes we have in school now. I think so much is overlooked. And that's why I really want to try and highlight, a lot of these characters and individuals that had an impact who may not be, widely known. And that's really the fun part for me as well with this. So.
And again, like I said, it's a good thing you're having fun with it, and and I've seen the kids when they see you at the conventions, they're fascinated by it. They look at it. They like the cartoons. They like the fact that you've picked certain history figures to talk about. My favorite thing is that little girl with Amelia Earhart. And I feel like we again we get stuck in the place and we do like all these, you need to know this and this and this, and like instead of just trying to have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because that's happened more than once where a kid has come up to the booth and they had no clue who a character was in the game, and then her parent would explain it to him or her, and it's just like, wow, their eyes grow wide, and it's just that's like the best feeling. I mean, we were exhibiting at CycleCon in February, and we had this one little kid. He had been like 7 years old, and he came by the booth the first time and was like too cool to even look at us. And then he came by like a third time, and he's like looking over the table, and he goes, "So what's this Time Enforcers about anyway?" And so I knew we hooked them in because it took a while, but as the fences broke down and just like the curiosity came out, it was just great. It's like that's exactly what we're looking for, is get kids interested in learning, and just hopefully open their eyes up to it. So.
And that's the fun thing. That's how it's supposed to be. It's how most of everything is supposed to be. But I feel like everybody keeps trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, good, clean, wholesome fun, and just have some fun as you go along. It's just really the whole point. That's what I love about it. So,
or like I call it, Christopher Columbus syndrome. I discovered this. I discovered that. You didn't discover shit.
No, everyone's done it before. I can't tell how many Time Enforcers I'm seeing now all over the place. It's just like, I don't know. I'm glad I trademarked it. Anyway.
But that's how it is, though. Most stories have been told. It's just that your version of the story hasn't been heard yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I said. I mean, time travel has been around since forever. It's just like, go back to H.G. Wells, for goodness sakes, and the Time Machine, and who H.G. Wells is actually a character in the game, but that's something you have to find out about. But again, it's all about, taking an idea that may have been used before, so what, and then trying to create a story around it to make it unique. And that's where I think Time Enforcers comes into play. It's like, going back to different eras to play as a character from that era to figure out what Chronolith is up to now is sort of the premise of what we're looking at. So that's what makes it fun. So.
All right, folks. Let's see. Tomorrow we will have the last part of Comics in the Bronx, Comics Creator Series. Tomorrow will be the artist. That will be at 9 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to have Rolo. We're going to have Mr. Fish. We're going to have Astra. Well, it's going to be a fun time. So if you got any art questions on creating comics, tomorrow will be the day to ask. Also, this Saturday, we'll be doing the main show in Bronx Community College. So if you guys have any comic creating questions, head up there to the Bronx. Talk to us. We'll be answering all those questions and giving you a bunch of other insights with our beautiful guests. Yes.
I have to say, Mr. Fish and Alice in Wonderland was a great book. I really enjoyed that. That was a great book.
He's about to release the second issue in the new Kickstarter.
Very cool. I'll look for that. That was really good.
See, folks, Comics in the Bronx. and your guests will be DM Charles, Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics, Dennis Knight, and Alex Simmons. And of course, I will be talking to all these people. They're on stage. So come join us. Ask your questions. Have fun. I know a bunch of you guys out there are trying to create your own comics. And you have your questions about all that stuff. this is the time to do it. Show up tomorrow at 9 o'clock here on the channel, and on Saturday as well. I think we're also going to be streaming it live, so you guys can get a chance to see it if you can't make it up to the Bronx. Yeah. And of course, Wednesday is the written writ. I'm still figuring out what's happening on Wednesday, and I'll let you know what's going on. You'll find out as soon as I do. Anything else, Mr. Tony?
Well, we were at Garden State Anime Fest yesterday, so I took a couple of pictures, not a lot, but I took some pictures. They're up on Instagram. They were on a Bit and Apple's page on Facebook, so I guys checked them out. We had a good time, and then Saturday was free comic day. I hope everybody got their free comics and enjoyed it. So you can hopefully you can still pass by. Hopefully they have some things left. So if you're near a comic store, check it out.
I gotta say, man, recently, like the comics just disappear after Free Comic Books Day. You don't have much left over.
Sometimes, I remember one time I was visiting a comic book store when I was many years ago. I was visiting comic book store, and everyone had that Green Lantern. Why? There were Green Lantern comics everywhere. So maybe you'll find something.
Search, folks, and you will find. Seek and you shall find. So we are going to be busy for the next couple of weeks. I think that in 2 weeks it is CradleCon, and we're going to be over there at the Cradle of Aviation, which is a fantastic location, and it's an amazing convention. We love Cradle here, and of course Shadow will be tabling CradleCon, so another reason to make your way out there. Besides the fact that it's in a museum.
Is that the 17th?
I think that is the 17th and 18th. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll find out for you folks. Let's see. Yep, 17th and 18th. Cradle of Aviation, Long Island. Be there.
Awesome.
And I think
I was doing about all last year, so try to get out there. Every time
at the end of the month, we got Kaiju Brooklyn and 5 Points Festival.
When is that?
Happening at the same time. 2 different locations. Kaiju Brooklyn will be in Industry City. And actually, I'm not sure where. No, I think this is the same location that they've had it for the past couple of years for 5 Points Festival.
So then that'll be far from each other.
Yeah. It's not like where Brooklyn did it right next to the other one. But even Brooklyn Comic-Con, they're going back to the old building. They didn't stay in the big Coliseum looking thing.
You get to make the choice. There's a Kaiju
after that.
Kaiju Brooklyn or 5 Point Festival. Whose side are you on?
That's a good question. That's gonna be a really good question.
I mean, you got 6 hours. You could probably try to work something out.
That's true. And I think after that, Garden State Comic Fest, which is funny because we just had Garden State Anime Fest, is at the end of June. So that's still about a month and change away.
Yeah.
And it's at the new location, which is easier to get to, folks. It won't be at the Menon Arena. It will be at East Orange. Yes, folks.
Garden State in June. Sorry, I blinked out there for a second. Yeah.
Oh no, that's June. That's June. That's the end of June. Because you're tabling, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I had a feeling that's why you got nervous. You were like, "Oh no, it's next week."
No, it's not next week. Don't tell me that. I'm not ready for it. I thought I had a month to prepare.
So, folks, I'll scare you right now. Did you guys buy your Mother's Day gifts yet? Because it's next Sunday. No, sorry, it's Sunday. Forget about next Sunday. It's Sunday. So you better have your Mother's Day gifts. Bad people. Bad people. All right, guys.
May's almost done already.
My mother watches this show, so I'm not saying anything. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Oh my God, folks! I hope you guys had a lot of fun today. We will be back tomorrow for Comics in the Bronx, the artist edition of Creating Comics. We'll be back on Wednesday for the Written Writ, and of course, if you want to see us in person on Saturday, you can go up to Bronx Community College and see all the beautiful people hanging out, talking comic books. I think that's everything. If not, I'll remember and I'll tell you guys tomorrow or Wednesday.
Wednesday. Not tomorrow, Wednesday. Just like June for
exactly. All right, folks, on this show, when it ends, this happens.